Welcome in, folks, for another episode of What's Bruin. I am your host, Chris Nozick, joined again by the wonderful, the one and only Gayle Trioni. Gayle, it's been a couple boring weeks in the hockey world. How are you getting through this summer?
Well, I guess I'm kind of just spending time with my family more than anything. I've had a busy July so far between 4th of July, graduation parties. My cousin just had her Jack and Jill baby shower. We've got a lot going on.
Busy summer, but not for the Bruins.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
But we took a couple weeks off. Like you said, we both had a lot of stuff going on these past couple weeks. But to kind of round out the last iota of the 24-25 season for the Bruins,
Mhm.
we figured we'd jump back on, and then we'll come back on in a couple weeks, beginning of August, and look forward to the new season. Obviously, a lot of the offseason moves have started. We've talked a lot about those along the way. But just I wanted to start off by just kind of saying, what are your final thoughts or summary, for the past season that we went through? Obviously, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, mostly downs, but I know we talk extensively that there's a lot of reason to be optimistic overall about
Right.
the future. But just this past season, um, any final thoughts that you may have?
So I think one thing is that, and a lot of people tell me to take off my black and gold glasses, so to speak. But as bad as the season was, I don't think it's a true indication of where the franchise is. If there's no doubt that Swayman had a down year, he was absolutely horrendous if you compare him to his previous work. I
Yeah,
think between the contract, missing training camp, then all the injuries in front of him, he just never got his mojo going. I think with all the injuries that the Bruins had, and people can say injuries happen across the league. They do. But a lot of those injuries, I don't think that the Bruins realized how devastating or how long those injuries were going to be, like Campus Lindholm. You know what I mean?
yep,
So they didn't go out and fill that position. They just took on the next man up mentality. And unfortunately, the next man up wasn't, they weren't, then they lost McAvoy. So I think that as bad as the season was, I'm glad to close that chapter and move forward to
yeah,
next season. And
for sure.
and I think that that's my take on it. It was a bad season, but it wasn't a season like I still think if we if a couple of things changed, and I'm not talking just injuries, just a couple of bounces here and there, they would have been in it a lot longer than they were. You know what
Which
I
was
mean?
surprisingly long for what was
Right,
going wrong.
right.
I think for me, this season kind of epitomizes the phrase "multiple things can be true at one time,"
Mhm.
and a lot of that was lost real quick. We do have Michael jumping in, wishing us, and I want to wish everyone a great summer. So thanks for the comment here, Michael. Anyone who has questions, comments, definitely throw them in there. Because like I said, we'll be a little all over the place on this one, but I do think a lot of fans lost sight of that. Multiple things could be true at one time. Yes, the team was struggling, but yes, Montgomery kind of also had that one foot out the door.
Right.
I mean, he was throwing the lines in a blender. It seemed like every other shift, like for the how could they get into a groove with that going on?
Right.
Yet they still somehow managed to be in first for a while at the beginning of the season. And it just kind of all fell apart at once. Hampus Lindholm was finally gonna get that power play one quarterback position, cracked in the knee, and is done for ultimately the year. Like you said, the Swayman stuff, just a perfect storm of problems. You know, and just it like you said, it's not an indication of where the organization really is in their cycle of competing.
Right.
But it's also a very different spot than, say, a team like Buffalo or Anaheim or Chicago, the perpetual rebuilding.
Right.
Just because you're in a position similar.
Chicago's been rebuilding since Taves and Kane left. You know what I mean? They've been rebuilding for a long time.
Right. And I do think there is a little bit of parallel to the Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals when they got that pick for Ryan Leonard. Just because they weren't a team that you really looked at and said, oh, they should have a top 10 pick. They ended up with one, and maybe Higgins turns out to be the Bruins version of Ryan Leonard and whatnot. But it just, last season, that it was anything that could go wrong likely was going to go wrong.
Right.
So,
that's a very true statement.
Everything from the goaltending to the coaching to to the trade deadline, you traded away key guys, which was ultimately going to make the team worse. But then it stayed a little bit better than we thought it was going to. And then, the epitome of that was the draft. Like you could move up to 4th overall, but you couldn't drop any further than, what was it, 9th or something. And so you end up where? Smack dab in the middle at 7th, where this supposed ledge in talent was. But then somehow you get the guy you wanted in the first place.
Right.
So or the one that fans wanted.
Right. And then I want also, since you're talking about that, let's talk about the fact that, they always say, Bruins fans are like, am I muted?
No, I'm having an issue with your audio. Michael, since I know you're writing some comments in there, I just want to know how it's coming off for the audience, because I'll refresh my page. But it definitely sounds very robotic. I don't know if it's the microphone, headphones, something like that. Could be on my end. I just want to see how it's coming for the viewers, if that makes sense. Hopefully we can get a comment in there soon, but let's see where we're at right now. You can hear both, Michael. Okay, so it's got to be on my end. So you go ahead. I'll refresh my page and jump right back in, okay?
Okay. I was just saying
now I think you're muted.
But I'm not. I'm not muted.
You're not muted. Okay. Let me refresh mine. If you're not muted and they can hear you, then it's probably an error on my end.
Oh, that sounds like a bigger issue.
So you go ahead, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm solo for a few minutes. I don't even know what I was talking about. So I think I was talking about the draft. Are you back? Can you hear me?
I'm back.
And can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And I'm going to switch those back. It'll bother you.
I'm flying solo. I don't even remember what I was talking about.
I don't know. Let's go back to Mike's comment here with Boston adding many bottom 6 guys. Where will ice time be for Blumel, Lysell, Mitten, Poitras, and probably some of the other young guys in there? I don't know. That's the benefit of doing live shows, is it gets us all thrown off. I don't even know what we were talking about anymore.
Well, so let's jump right in with that. I think that once training camp starts and Marco Sturm gets his hands on this roster with the rest of the coaching staff, we don't know how the roster is going to shake out. I'm not sure that all of these guys see time in the NHL. Some of them are going to get bounced back down to the AHL. And you want your guys to be the ones that you're naming, Michael, are probably more your middle 6 than your bottom 6.
I wonder if they're looking at it in terms of, like, specific like position battles. For instance, Patra will be fighting for the 2C spot against Casey Middlestad. Yes, they'll try other people there, but that's the main battle.
Right.
And if you look at it in camp and you go, okay, Casey Middlestad is clearly our 2C right now. Patra's just not ready. How does he look in a 3C role? How does he look on a right wing role? And then at that point you go, okay, he's just not there yet. We're going to send him to Providence. Like it's for some of the guys, especially the ones that you're mentioning, it's not just going to be okay, you didn't. We'll take Georgi Merkulov, for example. He is basically fighting for the third line center or third line left wing spot. And he's got to battle over Blumel. He's got to battle over Konstantinov. He's got to battle over, we'll even throw Pavel Zacha in there. He's got to beat out 3, 4, 5 guys to get that role. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but the likelihood of him earning that spot is considerably lower. But at the same time, if you compare him to, say, like Blumel, Blumel's game is a little more well-rounded. And so you're basically challenging him to step up and say, prove to us that you're better than these other guys. And
there has to be a reason that they only gave him a 1-year extension.
Yeah. I mean, he wanted to come back and prove that he could be an NHL player. I'm not sure, kind of how that all fit in. I don't think they're as high on him as a lot of fans are,
Correct.
And if you really watch him in Providence, like, yeah, in a first line role, he's a great AHL player, but sometimes that's all players end up being, is a great AHL player who gets a cup of coffee in the NHL. And you know what? Fans tend to really like those guys at first, and then they look at them 3, 4, 5, 6 years into their career going, yep, that's all they are.
The perfect example is Chris Bourque.
Yeah.
Chris Bourque did not make it in the NHL, but he excelled in the AHL. He just couldn't find his footing. He was not like his father. And, it's unfair to compare him to Ray. One was a defenseman, one was a forward, but he retired, and Hershey retired his number, and another one is Keith Aucoin. He just couldn't get his footing in the NHL. And again, had a phenomenal AHL career that he's in the AHL Hockey Hall of Fame. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that, two things can be true. You can be a skilled hockey player and just not make it in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, the NHL, we're talking the best of the best of the best. So, like, it really does mean something to do that. And sometimes you need that extra, kick in the ass by having them bring someone else in and have you go, wait a minute, I thought that was my spot.
Right.
And then you go one of two ways. Either you fold and you stay in the AHL, or you work harder and you beat them out for it.
Well, and that's the thing. Previous to this upcoming year, Georgi Merkulov was not pushing anyone out of the lineup. This season is going to be his best season. Him and Lysell, the two prospects that fans have been wanting to see in the NHL. This is the season that they have the biggest opportunity to push someone out of the lineup.
Right. And we saw it last year in the preseason. Both DiPietro and Bussy got their looks. They got looks in the preseason, and both of them clearly looked overmatched. And so nothing was done with Korpisalo because you still need an NHL level backup. And Swayman was signing at the time, and that whole thing was still going on. But we got a glimpse of what those guys did under a pressure situation of perform and make this team or don't.
Right.
And neither one of them did.
Right.
And so, I'm not that worried about Bussy being signed by Florida. I'm not that worried if they end up waiving DiPietro and he gets claimed on waivers, because he just hasn't been good enough to force himself into a spot on this team.
Right.
And, does that mean you don't look to trade Korpisalo if there's a trade that makes sense? Me, I'll look at every trade as long as it makes sense. But, just because you're in a rebuilding mode does not mean you can't try to ice a competitive team. If these are the players that are going to make that happen, they'll get the ice time. And I know people don't believe that, but with management's jobs getting on the line more and more every day, they're going to go with the best players.
Right. Can you go to Pyro OGOB? I think that's his screen name.
This first one here, yes. If I may ask, do you see Pastrnak staying long-term if Boston keeps on a downward trajectory, or should Boston maybe look to trade for some high-tier prospects?
I think Pastrnak stays. He is the new face of the franchise. He has officially taken the mantle. Himself, McAvoy, and Swayman are the three that they are building this team around in terms of long-term. Yes, I know Elias Lindholm is here for a while, and so isn't Nikita Zadorov. But in terms of face of the franchise, who your key, whether it be media relations, whether it be the go-to on the ice, whoever it is, it's Pastrnak, McAvoy, and Swayman. And I don't see them giving up and trading Pastrnak for prospects when Sweeney has been able to work other trades to package together key players and get prospects the other way. You know what I mean?
And I know he's asking about maybe they should trade for high-tier prospects, but one, you have to give up major pieces to get if you're talking like the Matthew Schaefers and those guys, you got to give up way more than they're worth because you're trying to buy in on them far too soon, and other teams just aren't going to be ready to give up on them. That being said, too, I would also say that you're kind of discounting, the ceiling of guys like Patra and Minton, Zellers, who they just brought in this year in the Carlo deal. Even Liesel has a very high ceiling. Blumel was one of the top goal scorers in the American Hockey League for the past 2 seasons. So they did bring in someone who can score. It's just a matter of, can he do it at the NHL level? Well, Merkulov was doing it at the AHL level too. So now you have 2 top AHL scorers who are fighting for their NHL lives. Both of them are looking at it as a last chance opportunity. Now, the real good part about Blumel is David Pastrnak wanted him here.
Right.
And so I do wonder how much that helps him push for a spot on the team, but they do have some higher end talent that is in the pipeline. Now that you've got the James Hagans in there, Dan Zlotch-Mellis, he's been playing international games for Latvia for 6 years now.
Right.
Like, he's been playing amongst men, so he really has an opportunity to push. He's used to playing against some of these guys. Loke Johansson, he's another high end talent. And I think people are underestimating the addition of Victor Soderstrom.
Right.
I think he can make a real push on the right side. And you're asking about the high-end prospects. Some of them just aren't ready yet. That's the problem. Like Hagans, he's got to go back to BC for one more season.
Well, and I forget who it was that tweeted it. And yes, I still say tweet. That David Pastrnak is 7th all time, right, in points scored, but he's less than 100 points from Patrice Bergeron, who's 3rd.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think about it, Pastrnak is gonna move into one of the top spot, the top 3 spots, if not this season, next season. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And you look at the type of player that David Pastrnak is, he's the player that's going to bring other people want to play with him. Other players want to play with him. And if Swayman has that bounce back years, other players are going to want to play in front of him. You know
Especially
what I mean?
defensemen.
Right.
Defensemen are going to want to play in front of him knowing if I screw up, he's behind me.
And then, you know what? You also now have Marco Sturm, who built really good relationships with prospects in LA and overseas that this team is definitely headed in the right direction. Am I going to say they're going to make the playoffs this year? I have no idea. I think they would have made the playoffs last year if a couple of things shook out a little bit differently. So that's, unfortunately, that's the world of sports.
Yeah. It's a bounce. It is what it is, as they say.
I don't know if anyone's airing juniors, by the way.
Yeah, Mike's comment. I don't know, especially up in Canada. You know who might know Mike? Google.
You know who does usually if there is anyone that airs it, it's going to be the NHL Network.
Yeah. You know what? Dom also might know, especially up in Canada. That seems like a TSN or a Sportsnet thing up there as well. So, well, John, we appreciate the compliment here. He says our hockey knowledge is amazing. So thank you. William says trading a guy like Pasta is what makes GMs infamous.
Yeah.
Especially at this point. So there was a trade. There was a comment. Man, it's been such a slow offseason, but you'd think I'd remember I had flagged something for us to talk about on the show. I don't know, it was like 2 weeks ago. And now I have to scroll back through Twitter. Luckily, it's not that far away, but there was a trade. I think the trade was done. I definitely should have sent it to you, but that was my fault. Bear with me for just a minute here. Do you see that they're going to be keeping the decentralized draft?
Yes, I don't care. It is what it is. I think that if they figure out how to what's the word I'm thinking of?
Shorten it.
Yeah, the time in between, it's going to be fine.
I get where they were going with everything, with the whole idea of everything, like the one-on-ones or the one-on groups, if you will, in that little bubble after the player was drafted. But let's be honest, they didn't have to televise every single one. That was overdone. Maybe if they had just done the first 5 and then taken the clips and shared them on social media, because that's all it was for. Let's be honest. It was just content. So
Michael, USAHockeyTV.com is going to stream it. I don't know if you get that in Canada, by the way.
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, poor Hagen's got ghosted, froze up. Boston was just so excited that their internet crashed. No, I found what it was though. And I know Dom posted an article about it. Igor, I'm going to butcher his last name, Chinakhov.
Oh, yeah.
That situation is definitely one worth keeping an eye on with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Mm-hmm.
He has basically come out and said that he wants to be traded. He is under contract, so he will respect the contract. There he is. Dom always has the answers.
From the top rope.
TSN is streaming in on TSN app or on TSN Plus, not on TV though.
Yeah.
So there you go. There is the answer. But as I was saying, he's requested a trade from Columbus. He is respectful of the fact that he has a contract, so he'll come in and he'll honor his commitment to the contract, but he'd like to be traded.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not granted, then he will heavily consider going back to Russia and playing back over there. Now there was some very important clarification from his agent by basically saying he's going to fulfill his contract. He'd like to play for another team. I flagged this though because the way Columbus handles this is something that Bruins fans need to pay attention to, because Don Sweeney has done a hell of a job of avoiding situations like this.
Correct.
Now, Brad Marchand saying, go ahead and trade me, was not him demanding a trade out of the organization. He would have probably been perfectly happy if he had stayed and just played out the rest of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of who's the last Bruin that you can think of who basically said, could you please trade me?
You mean like
I don't want to be here anymore.
Oh, Phil Kessel.
Okay, so we're going all the way back to Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
That's the last one I was thinking of too. So
I mean, Greg Hamilton didn't want to be in Boston, but I don't think he was like, trade me. Brad Stewart didn't want to be in Boston, but I don't think he was, you know what I mean? Like
they weren't demanding it.
Phil Kessel sat out and said, trade me. Like,
right.
I do not want to be here.
Right. I would probably equate this more to the Dougie Hamilton level of I don't want to be here, but I signed here, so I'm going to make the best of it as much as I can. Hopefully something changes and it can get better, that kind of thing. But watching how Columbus handles this, because now 31 teams know this player doesn't want to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets, which means their offers all just went down in value.
Correct.
And so they either watch him walk away to Russia, they play a player who doesn't want to be there, or nope, DeBrusk. Okay, so DeBrusk is now being mentioned. He didn't say trade me right now.
He did, but then he reneged on his trade, and that, you know what I mean. So he did. He asked for a trade in the middle of a season. And
I took his more along the line of like Dougie Hamilton as well, where it was more like I don't really want to be here, so I'd like to be traded.
He didn't want to play for Bruce Cassidy.
Right.
So he asked for a trade mid-season and then walked it back and said, I'll stay, because they moved him with Marchand and Bergeron. He's never mind. I'm going to go off on a different tangent, so I'm just going to shut my mouth.
We've seen some players have heavy requests, sure. But ultimately, DeBrusk, by the time his contract was up, he wanted to stay in Boston.
On his terms, though.
On his terms, absolutely.
Like he's an entitled little brat. Sorry.
I mean, he's not the only one in the NHL, let's be honest. So
yeah, and I agree with you. He's not the only one in the NHL, but that is not a typical Bruins player.
No, it's not.
A typical Bruins player puts the team above, you know what I mean? Well, I shouldn't say that. The last era put the team first. Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, Brad Marchand, Zdeno Chara. Like all those players put the team above their own personal success. You know what I mean? And Jake DeBrusk was all about Jake DeBrusk.
And if you notice, Jake DeBrusk stayed. They didn't opt to trade him because they weren't getting what they perceived to be enough value for him. They let him walk. And yes, they miss his offense, but at the same time, it's replaceable. He was replaceable.
Too streaky.
And let's see. Dom says the way CBJ should handle Igor is play him on the top line, let him score like he is capable, and watch his value skyrocket.
Which is the same thing that the Bruins did with Jake DeBrusk.
Unfortunately, DeBrusk is just too streaky of a player, so his value never saw that incline come back.
Correct.
So, but Dom, where I'm going with this though is how would Don Sweeney handle it versus how what's his name in Columbus is handling it? They just got a new GM. It's not Kekalainen anymore. But it just, more often than not, this type of incident is quashed in one way or another well before it gets to this point under Don Sweeney. Fair or not fair to say?
Oh, fair.
So,
fair. And it wouldn't be as public as it is.
Right. Thank you. It is Don Waddell.
I
just couldn't remember who took over.
As it is, like there were whispers. It wasn't. It became public that DeBrusk wanted a trade, but it wasn't public when it was happening, and he wasn't. You know what I mean? Like his agent wasn't out there speaking for him.
Right. His agent wasn't putting out Twitter threads.
Right.
saying that he wants to be gone. And when he kind of came out and said it, it was a past tense thing. He was saying, yes, I had asked for a trade.
Correct.
We've moved on from that. I want to
Right.
be here, so on
Right.
and so forth. So, yes, it all came out after the fact, which it was bound to anyway. I mean, that's just the world of social media and everything. But this is happening in real time. And that happened after the fact.
Right.
But just in general, this type of thing doesn't happen as much to the Bruins. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of respect that someone like Don Sweeney has garnered by treating players by large better than other GMs have in the past.
Well, I think the other thing too is you got to look at Columbus versus an original six franchise.
Yeah, there's that factor.
There's that.
We'll let you know when some player doesn't want to play for original six franchise.
Right. And then you also have to look at who's on the Columbus roster versus who's on a Boston. You know what I mean? Like, Jake DeBrusk, Jake DeBrusk wanted to play with Patrice Bergeron. Who's in Columbus that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they're getting better. Columbus
They are,
upswing.
but again, it's the same thing of, someone not wanting to be in Chicago because Connor Bedard hasn't reached his level, if he reaches his level.
Yeah, I mean,
someone having the opportunity to stay and play with Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like, you have to look at the players that, it's not always just the contract or the minutes. It's who you're playing with and who you're playing for.
Right.
What the coaches, there's so many different factors. And we also don't know what it's like in that locker room because we're not covering that team. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
no, 100%.
we're not, there's so many different factors for everything. Like, I'm sure that a lot of the leadership people in Boston were basically telling DeBrusk, we know you're unhappy, keep your mouth shut, though, because that wasn't the culture in Boston. And what I mean by leadership, I'm talking about the player leadership, not management. Like, you never hear a lot of discourse from the Boston locker room that you do from other locker rooms.
Real quick, Dom is chiming in. He said DeBrusk didn't rescind his request until after Cassidy was fired. When the news broke, he still wanted to be traded and played a whole season under a trade request, I think is what he means there. I could have sworn, I mean, I don't think he had officially rescinded his trade request until after Cassidy was fired, but I know there were heavy rumblings and there were more people who were, that confident that it was a real thing and whatnot, but it wasn't. There was nothing from the team, nothing from the agent officially out there. But yeah, I mean, DeBrusk would be the best example, the most recent best example, other than, going back to, Kessel and Hamilton. But to your point, the locker room kept as much of it in, none of the players bought into talking about it or anything like that. And Chinakhov right now is playing with Fantilli and Kent Johnson on their second line. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for him. William is even chiming in saying Columbus is likely a better roster, to be honest. I mean, depends. He's playing with Fantilli right now. I think some of it is just he wants to play somewhere else. There's a lot that goes into these kinds of situations. So all I'm saying is it's a situation for Bruins fans to keep an eye on, because it already seems to be past a point where more often than not, Don Sweeney is able to take care of it before it gets to this point. And a lot of that has to do with, and I think a lot of this, Don Waddell is also very well respected, don't get me wrong, but a lot of this for Chinakhov started under the old regime, and he's just not moving on from it because now it's Don Waddell.
Right.
So, there's a little bit there. And yeah, in hindsight, I would agree with William. In hindsight, they dropped the ball keeping DeBrusk. the problem is we don't really know for sure what they were getting offered in trades. So until we know what they passed up on, you can't really say that for sure. So I will go back to Pyru's question here. He wants to know, do we like Don Sweeney? Do we feel like he's a good GM? And do we feel confident in management and ownership? I'll let you start with this one.
All right. So sorry, I was trying to look up something, by the way. I don't not like Don Sweeney. I think he's a masterful at trades. And I think he sees a need for, he also spins magic with the cap.
Yes, Evan Gold helps a lot with that, but yes, with the tandem, I look at him as a tandem.
Right. But I think one of the things that one of Sweeney's strengths is identifying those players that are not excelling on different franchises and seeing something in them, Morgan Geeky, that they can bring out the best of themselves in a Bruins uniform. And I think that he swings and misses sometimes, Max Jones. And he swings.
That wasn't a big swing, though. Let's be honest.
No,
that was not a
but
you know what?
Swing. But neither was Morgan Geeky. Morgan Geeky wasn't a big swing. You know what I mean? So, but he swings and he misses sometimes. So I think that he gets crap for them not making the playoffs or being first round exits, or, again, 2 years against Florida. Well, the second year was the second round, but people don't realize that he's not on the ice. He's not playing the game. There's no reason that historic team should have been bounced by Florida in the first round.
No, that one was
that was coaching. That was coaching, because he should not have rode Allmark in that series.
Yeah.
He should have played the tandem. But that's hindsight 2020. But I'm confident in his ability to bring this team back to where it was, but I'm not confident enough to say that he can help this team yet bring another Stanley Cup to Boston. I mean, he in 2019, because 2013 he still wasn't the GM. So 2019 he was the GM. That was still a lot of Chiarelli's team.
And a lot of the players that he participated in their development.
Right.
So, yeah. Real quick, I got to pull up Dom's comment here. I want the Jacobs to adopt me and let me handle their cash for them. If they do that, then I'll like them.
I think that Charlie Jacobs is better than Jeremy Jacobs, but they're business owners, and they can say till they're blue in the face that they want championships. They make money because Delaware North owns the building. So they make money off the Celtics. They make money off the Celtics concession stands. They make the money off their own concession stands, the tickets, everything. And so, and yes, part of their ticket pricing does go back to the players. You know what I mean? So it's not like they keep all the money. Part of it does go back to the players and stuff like that.
I think it's the $21 beer that people are more upset about than the season ticket price. Like, at least there's a value of I have a seat in the building for every game there.
Right.
Then I also have to go and pay $20 for,
that's an exaggeration. It's not $20 a beer. I mean, for 2 beers, it's, $21, but I mean, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but
who's going and getting just one? Come on.
Right. No, but I understand. Well, you can't double fist in the garden anymore.
Oh.
You can't double fist in the garden anymore.
I thought you could go up and still get
if you're buying 2 beers, you have to have that second person with you.
Okay, that's different from the last time I was actually able to go.
Yeah, you know,
I've stopped drinking because of all the health issues I've been going through, so it's not
yeah.
even something I've been paying attention to. But
Yeah,
yeah,
gone are the days where you could walk up and be like,
give me 2.
yeah,
Oh man, I mean 2 made sense because that's all you could carry at least.
right.
But I'm a little bit mixed on the ownership, and I do appreciate the fact that he separated management and ownership, because there is, for me, heavily, I'm kind of with Will on this one. He says ownership spends to the cap, so A plus there. Um, there's 2 different ways that I can look at the ownership. One, they're not involved enough, but also, like you said, these guys are business owners. So if they want to just own the business and hand the hockey part over to hockey people and just stay the hell out of the way, I'm very much okay with that, as long as the checks continue to clear and they just let the hockey people pay for what they need to pay for, and they don't do an internal cap where they go, well, the league cap is 90, whatever it is, 98.8 or 98.5. We don't want you spending more than, 85 million on players. That's
Right.
our internal cap. Let them spend to the cap, let them spend over the cap if necessary, as far as the LTIR costs, the IR costs, all that stuff. Let the hockey people handle the hockey decisions. Done. Yeah, and Dom points out that Jacobs own the concessions to almost half the NHL team. So it's not just when the Bruins play. They are not hurting for cash. As far as management is concerned, I do think those positions, just like with a coach, they are hired with an intent to at some point be fired. And so I think we are closer to the back half for both Neely and Sweeney, but their track record does earn them the right to stick around. But they
I think
have.
it's I
Go
don't
ahead.
think I don't think Neely's on the hot seat as much as John Sweeney is. And I think it should be the other way around, personally. And I love Cam Neely as a player. But I don't think Charlie Jacobs is going to be like getting rid of both of them at the same time.
No, I think as a tandem, they are closer to the end of their tenure, and that it is a continual, perpetual fight to maintain their job. Now, specifically
Not
Don
Neely.
Sweeney,
Not Neely.
you don't think they're as tied together as?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. I mean, it's fair. I mean, I see both ways of it. Like you, I like Don Sweeney in his role better than Cam Neely in his. That being said, I definitely don't see them moving on from Neely and moving Sweeney up. I don't see that being the move. I wouldn't hate it, but I just don't see them doing that. But as far as Sweeney and his role, first of all, no GM is going to be perfect.
Right.
Otherwise, that GM would win the cup every year because they make every correct move. Don Sweeney has a canny ability to fix his mistakes in unforeseen ways, and also deal with things that come across his plate that were not expected, i.e. Rick Nash retiring. They tried for a while to find that right winger for David Krejci, and they just couldn't do it. But you cannot say Don Sweeney didn't try.
Oh, I agree.
Because he tried internal options, he tried trading for players.
Mm-hmm.
You finally had someone in Rick Nash that you went, this looks good. And then boom, concussion, player retires.
Right.
How the hell is that on Sweeney? It's
right.
not.
Right.
And so yeah, it just, his mistakes in the draft are there, just like every other GM's. But at the same time, he's been able to pick players when he has had draft picks that he has been able to trade. Ryan Lindgren comes to mind. Uro Vakanainen got you Hampus Lindholm. So, was Vakanainen the best pick? Probably not. But you know what? You got one of the best left shot defensemen in your top 4 that you could possibly have on a hell of a contract. Because let's be honest, that contract is probably the Bruins' best right now if he comes back healthy, between what you get for the value that you're paying. So he can do the job. I'm with you. I'm just wondering if he's going to be the guy to push him over to another cup. So Bob says he blows cap space by overpaying fourth liners year in and year out.
But again, so like 2 years ago, he brought in all these no-name players, these fourth liners, whatever, and everyone was like, they're not making the playoffs, they're not making the playoffs. Not only did they make the playoffs, they beat the Leafs and then lost to the Panthers, the eventual Stanley Cup winners. But so again, they were in cap hell, so they traded players they didn't want to trade, like Nick Foligno and Tyler Hall. And there's so many different things that go into it that it's unfortunate that when you have holes to fill, like even, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank?
Position?
Yeah, who they just signed. Bottom forward. Chanel.
Oh, Janelle. Yeah.
Like, the Bruins weren't the only one in on him. You know what I mean? So, and again, it's not so much the dollar amount. For me, it was the term. Like, it was a longer term than I wanted for a player like that. But there's still a need for a player like that. So I don't think he really like blows the cap by overpaying fourth liners year in and year out. I think that the problem is that when he brings in players and people are like, why is he bringing in players instead of playing the prospects? The problem is that the prospects aren't ready.
And that's what happens when you're drafting in the second round, third round, fifth round, sixth round, is they need to develop. And sometimes it takes a little longer. And that being said, the term, everyone's complaining about the term on Tanner Jeannot's contract. But one, the cap is now going up exponentially, it seems. And two, he's 28, not 38.
Right.
Like, let's not act like he signed, an 8-year contract to a guy who's 34.
Right. Well, and the other thing is that they're really hoping that, again, not being under a magnifying glass and playing lower in the bottom six, that he's going to have a different role and not be, demanded to be a high scoring output. That's not the role that the Bruins want him in. That's like when he scores, it's going to be a bonus, but that's not why they brought him in.
Right, but also the type, like, I know a lot of people are connecting him with a guy like Matthew Poitras, and so let's just go down that hole for a minute. Matthew Poitras has the sense to be able to find him when he's open and know how he plays. So Tanner Jeannot has not played with a player like Matthew Poitras since his 24-goal campaign. He has been playing fourth-line minutes, fourth-line roles, banger roles, like, that's what he's been doing. So, yes, he can do that and put up 3-4 goals a year and get you 78 games and be, a fourth-line grinder. But he does have a decent shot for a lower six forward player. So he could help bring to your third line something that you haven't had, which is the depth scoring, if you have the talent around him. And you're not saying, okay, our bottom six are all banger guys.
Right.
So, that's where someone like Minton or Poitras or, even Casey Middlestat, honestly, if he could end up being your 3C if he's beaten out. So there's just a lot of options there. And he adds to the mix of internal competition. And to your point, what was it? Like 9 or 10 teams were trying to sign the guy.
Right.
So I know a lot of people look at it and go, fine, let one of those teams make the mistake, but you don't know it's a mistake yet.
Right.
We're assuming it's a mistake. You want it to be a mistake. You're rooting for the mistake by saying that. Like, he is a hardworking guy. He's a locker room guy as well. And clearly last season, a lot of shit was going wrong in the locker room. And if you look at every single guy they signed, they addressed all of that. So it doesn't matter who makes the team. They're going to have a better locker room unit, period. Let's see. Getting some good questions here. Do you see Elias Lindholm and Zadorov rebounding, or is it a ride it out scenario?
I 100%, especially Elias Lindholm. I think that what we saw down the stretch, and we have talked about this ad nauseum, and I know that he Pyro OGOB is new to us, so he hasn't heard this conversation. But Elias Lindholm, with his injured back at the beginning of training camp and the beginning of the season, hindered him. And when coming out of Four Nations, he was purely healthy. He was ignited, and down the stretch, he put up the numbers that I'm expecting to see from him next year. He built that chemistry, that Pastrnak, that the Bruins were hoping to see, that they didn't see because of his injury. And Zadorov, I think once he was put into a role to where he had to run the defense because McAvoy was injured, Lindholm was injured, Brandon Carlo was traded. We saw the Zadorov that I think we'll see going forward as well. He definitely put in. So, and again, going to a new conference, a new league, a new conference, a new team, a new city, everything. And yes,
another new coach.
Yeah, and you get one coach, and then you got another new coach. You're learning a whole new system, and then your defensive captain is injured. Your other defenseman, your other top defenseman is injured. Your goaltender is not playing to his best ability. The team out of the gate struggled. Then you get a new coach, and then your captain is injured, and then your captain is traded. So many things happened last season. It's definitely I expect a lot more out of both Lindholm and Zadorov next year.
Absolutely, 100%. And Zadorov will be slotted ideally correctly. With Hampus being back, you'll get your defensive back. I agree with everything you just said there. I don't think it's a write it out yet. Elias, I think, has that bounce back season. Now, does that mean he's going to be 80, 85 point Elias Lindholm? Maybe not. Let's take it one step at a time.
I don't know. I'm not going to. I'll take. You know what? If he's playing with Pastrnak and Geeky, you never know.
I don't rule it out. I'm just saying, I'm looking at it going, if I can get 60-point Elias Lindholm back this season, then we can work to 70 and 80 in the next couple seasons and try and build on it. All I'm saying is let's not say all of a sudden he has to be an 85-point scorer in order for it to be a success.
But the last time he had those numbers was when he had Gaudreau and Tkachuk. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Now he has Pastrnak and Geeky.
Closest thing he's had to it. So, again, I'm not saying he has to go out and be the points leader or anything like that. But
Pastrnak's still going to be the points leader.
He has a chance to very much bounce back.
100%. It's going to be Pastrnak, Geeky, and Lindholm is the top three. Is, in my opinion, those are going to be the top three for offensive output. And then Pavel Zacha was third on the team last year. He wouldn't have been, but Brad Marchand got traded. So, but
good.
Yeah.
Shout out Dom real quick. Dom, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be in touch. Got a couple questions for you at some point. But shout out Dom. Check him out. Dom.Hockey. Just all the information that you could possibly want on all the Bruins prospects. Dom, thank you so much, and hopefully we get you back again soon. So say hello to the grandkids for us, and have a great night. But with that, did I cut you off on something there?
No.
Okay. Bob says, I watched a lot of Providence games this past season. They were blocking the offensive prospects in Providence also. It's an organizational problem at both levels. And then he provides VL Brown Pitlick as getting top billing 5-on-5 power play and penalty kill. Bob, I'm going to have to put you in the spotlight a little bit here, because VL Brown and Pitlick were not aligned last year that frequently. Brown was stapled to Fabian Lysell, and that's where Lysel's game matured a lot. Also, you had Georgi Merkulov got 54 points in 56 games. Vinny Lettieri, 50 points in 47 games. Tyler Pitlick had 46 points in 59 games. And Patrick Brown had 46 points in 56 games. So two of your examples, Pitlick and Brown, were your leading scorers. So they were playing the guys who were playing. And oh, by the way, VL, 37 points in 68 games, and he was one of your better left wings in Providence. So those were the guys who were scoring, for one. And for two, they weren't a line. Brown was stapled to Fabian Lysell, and Fabian Lysell's game improved because of it. Providence isn't just about scoring. Providence is about all-around player development. And Fabian Lysell, if you watched him from start to finish, night and day in the difference of his game and the maturity of the player both on and off the ice. And that's what someone like Patrick Brown was there to do. So it's not an organizational problem in blocking the offensive prospects. You can't say that until they block James Hagens from making this roster.
Right.
Because every other player that they have right now, their game was not NHL ready for the role they were projected to be in. You're not going to call Matthew Poitras up to put him in a fourth line role. That's not his game. And you didn't want to waste him on a third line role because the parts of his game that he needed to develop, he needed to play penalty killing time. He needed to play power play time. He needed the top line minutes that he was getting in Providence. And oh, by the way, Don Zlachmelis comes in and he goes off on scoring as well. He was at 2 points per game during his time in the American Hockey League. Limited, but it was there. Even Ty Gallagher stepped in on defense and provided offense, 5 points in 11 games. So the offense came there, just not from those guys.
And you have to remember, too, when Poitras first got sent down, he didn't have his game. It took him a while. It took him a while to finally break through. And once he finally broke through, he was much better.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, once he broke through and he was on, like, he was playing with guys of his age, is the best way to put it. He was still by far probably the best player on the ice most of the time, at least on the Boston side.
Yeah.
But, also, if you look at Poitras's game when he was down there, he got more physical. He got in people's faces. His game was lacking physicality, and he found that part of his game.
Right.
Let's see. He then adds, Zlachmelis looked great when he arrived. I think he was paired with Poitras. Yes, that was one of the pairs that they had.
Collegiate career too.
Absolutely. Went under the radar playing over at UMass, but it absolutely, I really wouldn't have minded seeing Zlachmelis make this roster. I do think he has a fighting chance to do so, but if he's one of your top two centers in Providence next year, I'm not that upset about it.
Neither am I.
It like his game could use it. It won't hurt him for that.
I wouldn't be upset if him, Poitras, if they start the season in Providence. I won't be upset if they start the season in Providence. And if they continue to build on what they were playing on last year, then I'm not opposed to them pushing out a Sean Corrali, or you know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, they signed Sean Corrali, but it doesn't mean that he's going to be in Boston this entire year.
Right. And I will only be upset if those guys are in Providence if in camp we see them far exceeding the player who makes the roster.
But but again, you have to remember, camp is different than playing NHL games for an extended period of time.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm talking like light years better. Like if you look at one and you go, what is he doing here? Like the difference between what we saw in Korpisalo and Brandon Bussey last year. You looked at Brandon Bussey and you went, he's just not there.
No, but I get what you're saying. But also in camp, you have to remember who had a good camp last year.
I'll let you know when I think of it.
Exactly.
We could be here for a while.
Right. All right. Let's move on.
Michael asks, will Callahan and Harris both get reps?
Well, you don't have Wotherspoon, right? You don't have Wotherspoon. He's gone. He's in Pittsburgh. So let's talk about this. You've got Lohrei, McAvoy, Lindholm, Zadorov, Jokiharju, right? That's 5. Who's your 6th? Oh, Peak. Sorry, Peak. Almost forgot about Peak.
I was like, I know you're forgetting somebody, but I
So
can't think
there's
of
your
who it
6.
is.
So, yes, I'm not sure it's going to be Callahan over Harris, but Callahan, again, when he was brought up after the trade deadline and got some minutes, he wasn't a liability, and that's the whole thing. Do you remember, I think it was Montgomery's first season where he was rotating that 7th defenseman?
Yep.
I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to them. I don't want to see Lindholm, McAvoy, or Zadorov sitting, but I'm okay with even Pete getting a night off. I'm okay with Jokiharju getting a night off. I'm okay with Lori getting a night off. There's no reason why, if you feel that you have a strong enough 7th defenseman, that you're not rotating your defenseman to keep them fresh.
I don't see either of them making the team out of camp. I'll be honest about that. I don't see
Who's the 7th defenseman then? Because they're not carrying just 6.
Soderstrom. I think he is being vastly underrated in what he potentially can bring to the table.
But he has to learn the Bruins system.
Sure.
Callahan already knows it.
Sure. Soderstrom also plays on the right side.
Huh?
Soderstrom is also on the right side. And you have you have, I mean, no one really can play both sides like extensively, but you're not really going to ask anybody to do that. The one person in your system who you could do that with would probably be Jackson Edward, but he's nowhere near ready. But when you look at your right side, I really wouldn't be surprised if Jokiharju is your odd man out. I really wouldn't. I can see Soderstrom taking the second spot on that right side and playing much better than people are anticipating. Keep in mind, we're talking about a former overall 11th pick. And last year, he was Defenseman of the Year for his league. He's a very good player. He didn't stop playing because he was bad. He did not want to make the move to Utah. So he went over, I think it was to the SHL.
Right.
So he's on a 1-year deal. He's looking to prove himself in the National Hockey League. I think he's got a much better shot to make this team than people are giving him credit for. And he also has, albeit limited, but some NHL experience with high-end minutes. So I think his signing is completely under the radar for most of the Bruins fan base. I think Jokiharju was signed for the lack of better options out there, to be completely honest. The right-handed defensive market was crap.
But I also don't think we saw such a small sample size, and he played very well with Zadorov.
Yeah, that's why I think they were okay with bringing him in on the 3x3 contract, because there is a little bit of known there, and maybe he becomes your quote-unquote Zadorov whisperer.
Yeah.
Like, maybe. But, and let's say he does. Okay, so you're going to play them as your third pairing? Maybe. Like, I really like the idea of a Lindholm-Soderstrom pair, because they're both very solid two-way defensemen, both big in size, both solid skaters. Obviously, you're assuming Lindholm comes back healthy. But that, with Lori McAvoy as your top...
You also have to see where the chemistry is with the two of them.
Absolutely.
You know?
100%. But that's where you could see someone like Peak being rotated in as your 7th defenseman, or Jokiharju as your 7th defenseman, and then Harris ends up in Providence, Callahan ends up in Providence. They're your first call-ups.
I'm fine with Callahan being in Providence.
Oh, I know you are. I'm just saying I don't think either one of them are going to get significant time in Boston to start the season. Now, that also means that you have a position of strength where you can come the trade deadline. If you're still another half in, half out team, you can make a similar decision to what we saw this past year, where you look at a guy like Andrew Peak, you move off of him. You look at a guy like Pavel Zacha, you move off of him, or Casey Middlestat, or, Victor Arvidsson, you can move him at the trade deadline if he's showing to have enough value there, and send him to a playoff team where he can be a good rental piece. So you still have players. I mean, even the guys that you signed, Esimont, Corrali, Hustadinov, these are guys that you could move to a contending team and still get something for if you're in the right position at the trade deadline. There's a ton of options here. I do like this comment, though. Yeah, we go in depth. And we got a little bit more coming up that we'll have information on as well. Soderstrom needs 42 something games, or he's a Group 6 unrestricted free agent. They signed him as a Group 6 unrestricted free agent. Or no, I'm sorry, they traded for him. But yes, he needs a handful of games to become an unrestricted free agent. I'm sorry, yes. Because he was the one they got in the Ryan Mast, the infamous Ryan Mast trade. Still don't know why they signed that contract early. But yes, he's a pending Group 6 unrestricted free agent. So he's going to be looking to prove himself at the NHL level. There's just going to be so much opportunity, and they still have 5 contract spots they can fill. I think they'll save those towards the end of the year for some of the college kids. But
I'll see.
Yeah, I mean they'll have at least 1 or 2. It'll be very interesting to see the future of this team. But would you say they are in a better position now than they were 2 months into last season?
With a normal Jeremy Swayman, absolutely. Him alone changes the makeup of this team. And a lot of people want to crap all over Jeremy.
People are trying to trade him
because Bruins fans hate their goaltenders. But a normal Jeremy Swayman who took the net from Allmark the year before his contract issue, the one that showed up at Worlds and won gold this offseason, that Jeremy Swayman shows up with the chip on his shoulder to shut everyone up, that automatically changes the makeup of this team. Automatically.
By quite a bit.
That alone.
By quite a bit, yeah.
That alone. Not to mention, you've now got Elias Lindholm that is like, you guys don't want me here. Let me show you what I can do. You've got Nikita Zadorov that is now a year of Bruins hockey under his belt and will have the pressure taken off him with a healthy McAvoy and a healthy Lindholm, but became a leader on and off the ice entering this season. And you have a coach that wants to be here, number one.
That's a huge part.
A coach that not only wants to be here, wore the spoke to be, was the only player in the Joe Thornton trade that wanted to be in Boston. Well, I mean, Wayne Primo did, but whatever. But you have Marco Sturm, who knows what it means to pull that Bruins B, that spoked B, on his chest for 82 games. Knows what it means to play in the playoffs for the Bruins. Knows what game-winning goals. Knows how to shut down Montreal. Knows what the rivalries are in the original 6 franchises. You know what I mean? Like, he understands that. And coaching the Ontario Reign, knows what it means to get the best out of a prospect or your young players to elevate their play. So I 100% believe that we're going to see a lot more pluses. I'm not saying they're going to win a Stanley Cup next year.
You're not? That's not what you're saying? Multiple things can't
be true? You know what? We're going 82-0. There it is.
There we go.
But
as soon as they lose the game, I'm going to say you were wrong.
But seriously, Swayman, McAvoy, Elias Lindholm, Hampus Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, David Pastrnak, Morgan Geekie, these players want to shut the critics up.
Oh, yeah. And we saw last year, Morgan Geekie, the players see what's going on. They hear it. We know Morgan Geekie. Shout out Brett Howard.
Yep.
Listen,
I asked him about it in the locker room.
Oh, yeah? Care to share?
I wrote about it. You don't remember that?
Oh, that's right. You did. Oh.
I asked him point blank about it. Like that people, how he felt about the fact that people wanted him gone. And then all of a sudden they were like, you need to sign him now. Like they flipped the switch. You know what I mean? It's like, and Brett Howard, yes, love you, Brett. He 100% laid down on his sword because he was the front runner to, be like, get Geekie off this roster. And then he's one of the ones that did the 180 and said the Bruins need to sign him now.
Yeah. But shout out to Brett. He ate the crow, but
I'll
he fed it to him.
And I'll eat the crow if they're 100% healthy and Swayman doesn't show, you know what I mean? I'll eat the crow. I just don't think that Swayman's going to show up this year and be like, he's coming in on fire, ready to prove all of the haters wrong. All of the fans that said we kept the wrong goaltender, the Bruins signed the wrong goaltender, that it should have been Korpisalo and not Swayman, that Swayman isn't worth this and Swayman isn't worth that. Swayman is so much the epitome of what it means to be a Boston Bruin that it's, you know what I mean? Like, and I know that he has the ego, but goaltenders have to have egos.
A success. You know how they say in baseball, if you hit 300, you're a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
You're not a good goaltender unless you stop 90% of the pucks that you see. Mm-hmm. So you have to have the mentality that you're going to stop 100% of them, knowing that 5%, 8% are going to go in and you're still going to be okay.
Right.
Now, a goaltender who at every single level from the age of, I want to say it was like 12 or 13 to now, what is he, 25 now? Something like that. He has had a total of 2 seasons with a sub 900 save percentage. And both of those seasons, he was hovering at 89 and change. He didn't forget how to stop a puck. That's like saying Alex Ovechkin had a down year. He forgot how to score.
Right.
Like,
well,
he scored 38 instead of 55.
Let's not forget the Bruins have the best goalie coach in the league.
I'd say the best goaltending coach tandem. Because Mike Dunham in Providence does a fantastic job down there as well.
He's down in Providence. I'm talking about
for sure.
Bob Cesna.
Oh, Bob. Goalie Bob, man. Gotta love Goalie Bob. So he's the one coach that everybody wanted kept around.
Right.
So what does that tell you? Bruins fans were united on one thing. Keep Goalie Bob.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. You can't get Bruins fans to agree on jack shit, except keep Goalie Bob.
Correct.
What is that right there has to tell you something. But as you said, the most popular player in Boston is always the backup goaltender. Always. We saw it when Tuukka Rask was the starter. We couldn't stop hearing how he was overpaid. And one of Tuukka Rask's former backups hung him up.
I really want Tuukka Rask to do mean tweets someday.
Oh, that would be awesome. Oh, that would be fantastic.
I love
go through
because
them.
Tuukka has such a personality. He's amazing.
The unobstructed views broadcast, you could really see it start to come out sometimes too.
Oh yeah, they got more comfortable. I think the second season of unobstructed views, if they do it, I don't work at Nesson anymore, so I don't know if they're still doing it. But if they,
it's not like they have writing going on. They might as well do video content.
But if they do unobstructed views with Ray Croft, Bergeron, and Tuukka Rask, in this upcoming season, number one, the team's going to be a little bit better, right?
They might actually see a win.
Right. It was, that was like really hard watching them struggle through how bad that team was. But that's the first thing. And the second thing is you could see with every broadcast, Bergeron got more comfortable. Obviously, Ray Kraft is always on camera because he's one of the in-studio hosts. He's also rinkside. You know, he does the morning brew. So he's used to being out there
to a
in the
microphone.
spotlight. Yeah, but Bergeron definitely got more comfortable. And I think that the one thing that they need to do is they need to talk more about, like, when you're talking, when you're facing, like, if they're playing the Panthers, Tuukka Rask needs to be able to talk about what it's like to play against a player like a Sam Bennett. He doesn't need to have played against Sam Bennett, but he faced players that were like Sam Bennett. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you need to, and Bergeron definitely faced Sam Bennett, Alexander Barkov. So they need to tell those type of stories. And I think that is going to bring out the personality more in each of those players. But
absolutely.
I digress. You know, let's stop talking about my former employee.
But Rask, one of his backups in Yarrow Halak hung him up.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, one of the very underrated goaltenders. I think he had a sneaky, very, very good career. But there were times, I mean, people were calling him to start over Tuukka.
Right.
So just, you know, we saw Halak hang him up, Blake Wheeler, Tyler Johnson, who was a legend of 9 games. And then, of course, Riley Nash. All of them decided to officially retire this season, or this offseason, rather. Do you have any thoughts or you know, stories that you want to share on any of those guys?
Listen, trading Blake Wheeler is what brought a Stanley Cup to Boston. So, or one of the reasons that, you know what I mean? So, no, I mean, in each player, you know, there's a saying that the Bruins alumni always say, once a Bruin, always a Bruin. So it doesn't matter if Tyler Johnson only played 9 games for Boston. He's still a Boston Bruin, you know, and he may have only played 9 games for the original 6 franchise, but that was 9 games more than some players, you know what I mean? Some players get and it's unfortunate because I think he was one of the ones that on the PTO, you look, they brought in, who did they bring in the year before on the PTO that ended up turning out to be a great
Danton Heinen.
Yeah. Well, not only him, but there was someone else too before that. But yeah, like, you know, it's like you take your chances on those players, and unfortunately, he just never gelled in this system. But I think a lot of Bruins fans also thought he was going to be a savior of sorts, just because he had won. You know, he had the pedigree. You know, and so it's just,
he also didn't get. So he had a great camp. And then he was out for basically 2 months. It took him 2 months to sign the guy.
Yeah.
So he had 2 months off. And so he like had to go through it all again.
Right.
And then right after they sign him, they change coaches.
Right.
So like the guy, let's be honest, didn't get a fair shake in Boston either. Like,
yeah.
You know, and some of that had to do with, okay, so Swayman's contract came in. Maybe it was a little higher than Sweeney anticipated, so they couldn't get the Johnson deal done. But you know, clearly he hung around. He hung around on the PTO. He didn't have to do that. He wanted to be in Boston. I think if he had been able to keep that run strung together, I think he probably would have. Ironically, he might have been the Bruin who started out the season the strongest. But we'll never know.
Right.
So, but no, they all had great careers in of themselves. My question is, do you think Don Sweeney makes the Mark Stewart Blake Wheeler trade to Atlanta to bring in Peverley? Because Peverley was the target in that deal. They got someone else in it. I don't remember who exactly, but it was 2 for 2. But do you think Don Sweeney makes that move? Because Blake Wheeler at the time, still a very young player, and we know how much Don Sweeney likes to keep those young guys once they make the roster.
Right. But I mean, the thing is, though, is you have to look at the fact that you have to sometimes make those decisions for the better of the franchise. right? I mean, we can use the perfect example of the Boston Red Sox. They traded the face of the franchise, Nomar Garciaparra, and then they won the World Series, ending the curse, right?
Yep.
So sometimes you have to make those decisions. So I don't know if Sweeney makes that trade, but we don't, I mean, you can't play what if because it was long before he took over.
Oh yeah. Well,
Long before he took over. But you also have to remember that he also, who did he give up for my brain is like completely mush right now on trades. Who did he give up for Bertuzzi, Orloff, Hathaway?
Oh, that was the complicated three-way deal, which they're not going to be able to do anymore because of the new CBA. But they gave up first, second, and third round pick, a fifth round pick to Minnesota because they retained on Orlov, and it was Craig Smith. Craig Smith was the only player that he dealt away in that.
Right.
But that was the genius of it. He got Orlov and Hathaway for 4 overall draft picks.
Right.
One first, a second, a third, and a fifth. And the first and fifth were the only 2 in the same draft.
Right.
That was it. So, yeah, it just, it was a great move.
Right.
We'll see what other moves they have up their sleeves. I know there's a lot of questions. Would you trade this player, that player? And by and large, I think you and I are in agreement. The answer is yes. What's the return?
Right.
No one's untouchable on this team, but at the same time, we're not trading David Pastrnak because he turns the puck over.
Oh my God.
Like, would you trade David Pastrnak? Well, yes, if the right deal presents itself, because guess what?
No.
If you're trying to trade for a player like a Leon Draisaitl, a Connor McDavid, someone like that, that's what you're going to have to give up. But those guys aren't becoming available in trade because guess what? They all have no movement clauses. So,
but even if they are, the reason why they're coming up on trades is because they hate where they are. You know what I mean? And they
hate where they are, or they're becoming an unrestricted free agent in 6 months.
And right, and they know, but that's they hate where they are, and they're coming in unrestricted. So you're gonna get something for them. You know what I mean? And even then, you have to also look at the bigger picture. If you're gonna give up David Pastrnak for Leon Draisaitl, you have to give something else up too. You're not just giving up David Pastrnak. So how big of a picture, how big, how much do you have to give up to sign that one player who's becoming you know what I mean? That may not be, that may not
realistic name that you're targeting in something like that right now would be Jack Eichel. That would be the realistic name that you'd be targeting. But even then, the argument I would have is you have David Pastrnak locked up.
Right.
Why are you going to risk maybe signing Jack Eichel when you have a David Pastrnak who's not fighting the league?
It would have to be a sign and trade. It would have to be, you know what I mean? Like they would have to sign Eichel and then trade him. Kind of like what the Toronto did with Marner. They signed Marner and then they traded him so that that they're locked. You know what I mean? So you know that they're locked up. That's the only way you make a move like that is that you know that the player coming is going to be here longer and they're not just a rental.
Right. And even with a guy like Eichel, in order for me to even think about that, I need to know Liesel is going to be able to replace Pastrnak in this lineup because I need a winger for Eichel.
Well, my thing is that I'm not giving up Pastrnak for Eichel. I'm not. I'm not giving up a 60-goal scorer for Jack Eichel. And I like Jack Eichel. I
love Jack Eichel's game. That's just the only thing I can think of.
I'm not giving up the entire offense for a center who may not have someone to feed the puck to.
Especially when I have James Higgins coming down the line.
Right. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Now, Am I giving up? I'm not even giving up David Pastrnak for Connor McDavid.
No, I don't want to pay McDavid's next contract.
No. Number one. Number two, he's not a Bruin player.
No, you're refacing your entire franchise, not just rebuilding. You are refacing it entirely to something that you're not.
Right.
And it's just not worth it for Boston in any way, shape, or form.
Speaking of Connor McDavid, let's hit the schedule. It's a good segue.
Yes, the schedule. The schedule is out. Yep. Very good segue.
Yep.
Where do you want to start on it? How's game one, season opener?
In Washington. So I think it's going to be a good test to play a team like Washington because they're so close to the same style. Not necessarily the personnel, but the same style, the same system. They're close to the same system. So I think it's going to be a fairly decent test. Game one on the road. And then you're opening up at home the very next night against Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, so exactly. you could be 2-0 to start the season.
Which would be a great way to start for this team. Yep. You could be 1-1. I mean, really in the back-to-backs.
Or
I wouldn't even if you started 0-2. I mean, obviously we got to see how they play.
If you lose to Chicago, you have issues.
I agree. However, one, I got to see how the game plays out. And two, with Chicago, game 2 of the season, like for them, it's still a fresh, hey, we're still in it. Like they are a young team that would still have confidence at that point. So while I agree with the sentiment that if you lose to Chicago, it's you've got problems. If it's game 2 of the season in the second half of back-to-back to start the season, I'm not going to overly freak out over it if you play well and you just get beat by kids who have all the energy in the world that you're just not up to speed with yet.
Right.
So even at that point, I'm not panicking, but yeah, you should be at least 1-0-1 after 2.
Right.
That would be the way to go. I know you had recently published an article on your Substack analyzing a few games that you're looking forward to. So the next one on your list, because obviously the season opener, who's not excited for the new season? The next one you have is October 21st as Florida comes to Boston. Yeah. It's the return of Brad Marchand.
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest, who's not looking forward to that one?
Well, I mean, you want to talk about a measuring stick. Who else do you measure up against than the reigning Stanley Cup champions?
Back-to-back.
And your former captain.
Yeah.
Number one,
you also didn't get it.
Marco Sturm outcoach
Paul Maurice.
Can Jeremy Swayman outplay Bobrovsky? Can Elias Lindholm hold his own against Alexander Barkov? Because Brad Marchand's playing on the third line. So it's not, you know what I mean? So who is Nikita Zadorov going to put him through the boards?
He could.
Right.
He very well could. Although I also wouldn't put it past Paul Maurice. They can't do it on defense. But on offense, I wouldn't put it past him to have Boquist, Nosek, and Marchand start the line. Just all former Bruins. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And then as soon as puck drops, change it up. But
right.
It just, I mean, how could you not be excited to see him come back? Now a 2-time Cup champion. You really didn't get a good chance to, see him off. Because he was injured.
He was injured, and when they came back, and when Florida played Boston after the trade, Marchand was still hurt, so he didn't play. So it wasn't like when they saw Brandon Carlo, you know what I mean, after the trade. They didn't get to see Brad Marchand at all. And a lot of people, again, are going to be like, well, look what he did in Florida for the playoffs. Again, third line minutes, coming off an injury. No one knew what he was going to do. So let's see what the grind does for him. And I think that doing third line minutes, you're going to see a rejuvenated Brad Marchand.
Let's also not forget his third line center is a second line center on most teams, Anton Lundell. And Eetu Luostarinen he is like a second line player. Like their third line is not your prototypical third line.
Right.
Like they play physical and whatnot, but they have that throughout their lineup. They don't have a checking line. Their fourth line of Samoskevich, Nosek, and Boquist, like they're just a line that goes out there so the other three can rest. And they have one goal in mind. Don't let the opposition score. Beyond that, if you're able to get a goal, great. We'll take it. But honestly, just keep it out of our zone and just give our other 9 guys a breather, and they'll go out and score if they can get enough rest.
Right.
Play 9 minutes a night. Yep. Kill some penalties for us. Like when Tkachuk screws up and he's in the box, Nosek, you're killing that penalty. Right. That's your job.
Right.
But you know what? It won them a cup, so they're not going to complain about it.
Right.
So after Florida, you have a very interesting choice, which is the New York Rangers coming to the Garden.
Nope. You skipped on.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. November 15th, which is Boston-Montreal. Always a good rivalry.
Always.
I think that's all that needs to be said there. But Montreal is one of the best young, talented teams coming up. And you're talking about a good test. That team is going to be a good test. Now that they have Noah Dobson, Lane Hudson on the back end.
It does the NHL, not just Boston, but it does the NHL better when Montreal is a good team.
Yes. Same thing with Philly. Boston obviously is another one on that list. Chicago's another one on that list. Detroit's on that list. Like there are certain markets that the NHL overall does better when they're a good team. And I think, real quick, just off topic a little bit, I think having Arizona relocated to Utah and wanting to be competitive, right now, there isn't a team out there that you're looking at going, they don't want to at some point be competitive for a Stanley Cup.
Right.
Pittsburgh's working on a rebuild. They're going through something that is unusual.
But they still have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin.
And they still have them. That's the point, is they still have them. And those players aren't going to allow them to just fall off a cliff. So, but the November 28th game, you have the Rangers coming to Boston on this list. Yep. Why?
A lot of it is the Black Friday matinee. Because they took a year off from the Black Friday matinee, which is really weird because it was a staple in Boston, right? It was 100% a staple in Boston. So that's part of it. The second thing is it's Mike Sullivan, a former Boston Bruins coach, Charlie McAvoy's father-in-law. The Rangers are going through what the Bruins kind of went through with a new coach, new lineups. They made some big splashes and trades. Chris Drury has his head on a platter with the fans, just like Don Sweeney does. And by the way, Joe Sacco has joined the team as one of the assistants. You know what I mean? So I just think that this is going to be a great matchup.
You also mentioned when Florida comes to town, Swayman Bobrovsky. How about Swayman Shesterkin? As a matchup.
Yeah.
I think that's a card that is a little underrated. Yeah. And then you have February 1st.
Yep.
The outdoor game against Tampa Bay.
That's just, you have to, the Bruins and outdoor games, there's nothing like that atmosphere. Even when the Bruins, god awful showing against Montreal.
Yeah, it was brutal. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, in that second Winter Classic. But you got to remember, Marco Sturm was the hero of the first outdoor game the Bruins played. David Pastrnak was the hero of an outdoor game. You know what I mean? So you have...
And then he missed Barbie Girl.
Right, but you know what I mean? Like, they're going to... Florida has both Winter Classic, both outdoor games. The Panthers have, the Winter Classic, and Tampa has the Stadium Series. So it's going to be, first of all, weird.
Bettman's not trying to push hockey in Florida at all.
No, not at all. But you know
There's
what I
no
mean?
agenda.
It's like, but the Bruins take it to another level in outdoor games, and it's just that atmosphere is just phenomenal. So,
And you know why the atmosphere is going to be great in those two specific games is because, well, obviously, no state income tax.
oh, you're such an ass.
And then they get the 3-week break for the Olympics.
Yeah.
I had to sneak that in there. I mean, come on, they're playing 2 outdoor games in a no tax state.
Yeah.
They don't think that's going to come up at all. Ugh, come on, is a state with 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah,
that's not going to be mentioned at all once during the game. I promise you. They get the 3-week break in February for the Olympics, and then they open up again against Columbus on February 26th.
Welcome home, Charlie Coyle.
Yeah, that's his first time back, isn't it?
Oh, I don't even know. I didn't even look.
I think so, because I think Columbus is one of the teams you only play twice, once on the road, once at home. And then the regular season rounds up April 14th.
They end the season against New Jersey again this year,
which is going to be interesting because New Jersey is yet another team that's going to be in the mix for their division. So,
well, I'm hoping that the Bruins can not have it come down to the last game of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I'm hoping that they have something locked up long before that. You got to look at how tough this division is going to be this year. Florida is going to be up there. We don't know. You don't know what Tampa's going to be like. I mean, Tampa they have their ups and downs.
Well, one thing we know is Buffalo's winning the division. For sure. They're winning first place in the bottom.
Okay.
They're winning first place in the bottom of the division.
Okay. Well, I mean
golf score. They're winning the golf score.
Listen.
Sorry.
Listen. Where'd the Bruins finish last year?
3 points behind Buffalo.
Okay.
Hey, but 5 teams from the division won the playoffs. So I will say, I think we could see that happen again. I'm just saying, I think we could see that happen again with 5 teams coming out of the Atlantic. Because when you really look at the Atlantic versus the Metro, I mean, did the Islanders, did they really get better, or did they get worse and then better from that worse position?
Right.
The Penguins, as much as Crosby and Malkin are trying to keep the water off the sinking ship, there's only so much they can do. Philly is just, they're okay. So there's 3 of them right there. The Rangers have a bunch of new players, and they're going to be trying to figure it all out. And we saw what that did to Nashville last year. Remember how Nashville won the offseason, and then all of a sudden no one could figure out their left hand from their right and put the puck in the net. So I wouldn't be surprised to see New York and Columbus finish exactly where they did again this year. Maybe the top 3 have a different order, because I don't think Washington's going to be the same kind of powerhouse that they looked like they were this year. But I really wouldn't be surprised if you saw the same 1, 2, 3, change up the order, your preference, and then the same 4, 5. And then in the Eastern Conference, you would see, 4 of the 5 in the top probably be the same. Ottawa's the team that really you just don't know enough about. Montreal, it's a product that's been building for too long to just lose faith in it. And that organization with this rebuild has just stayed the course so consistently that it just seems like their next step, okay, now we're going to finish 4th in the division, because they only finished 5th by 5 or 6 points.
Right.
Ottawa seems like the team that is just more, okay, hey, this year we hit the dartboard. Next year we are going to try and land on an actual color.
You're overlooking one team.
What's that?
You're overlooking.
Which one? Boston?
Toronto.
Toronto was top division. I'm saying they're still going to be in it. but they could fall off. I don't see them finishing first. I don't see them winning the division.
I mean, but we don't know how they're gonna shake out without Marner.
No, but I think their defensive game overall is going to still be there. Their offense is going to be okay.
But their goaltending is still.
It's not the greatest, but Stolarz was, it's decent depth. Stolarz, Wall, and Hildeby.
Right.
So, yeah, they don't have Matt Murray anymore, but that's not the end of the world. Hildeby is ready to be their number 3. That's what he is. Tampa, I very easily could see Montreal winning the division, mostly just because they have the young youth.
Over Florida?
I don't think Florida's going to care that much over the division. I really don't.
Oh.
They finished 3rd in the division this year, and it didn't faze them at all.
Yeah, but they also finished 3rd in the division because they had a lot of injuries. You have to remember,
Matthew absolutely.
Matthew Tkachuk did not play a lot, especially
Ekblad, Ekblad had the suspension too. So
right. I mean, you have to. I'm just saying, so I'm not sure that Florida is not at the top of their game.
No, absolutely. I think Florida is by far the favorite to win the division. I'm just saying I could see Montreal being competitive for the division because they have the youthful legs to go all out for all 82 games, whereas Florida is more likely to lay back a few times and just be like, it's game, 46, and it's the second half of a back-to-back, and we got the Olympic break in 2 weeks. We're down by 2, just let this one go. I'm just saying, I can see it happening. I'm not saying it will, but and then Boston, Detroit. Obviously, Detroit is still gonna Detroit. If Boston fans are upset with Don Sweeney, just imagine how they would feel if Steve Yzerman was their GM right now.
Imagine having Kyle Dubas as the GM.
When he was with Toronto or now with Pittsburgh?
Oh, Toronto. He's done a better job with Pittsburgh.
I think he's more able to do what he wants in Pittsburgh.
Oh, because he's the president as well.
Well, yeah. I think...
I mean, he's the president and the GM. Of course.
How many times do you really think he tried to trade Marner? Let's be honest. How many times do you think that before the NMC kicked in, do you think he tried to trade Marner and he was told no, you can't trade him by Brendan Shanahan?
Oh, yeah, and I'm not sure he didn't. I'm not sure he didn't field calls on it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that he had a couple of packages together, just like I'm sure Sweeney has fielded calls on Patrice Bergeron. Has fielded, you know what I mean? That's. You love to say it. It's their job.
No, I'm talking he had a deal in place, ready to pull the trigger on, and Brendan Shanahan came down and said, no, we're not doing it. They didn't trade Mitch Marner, not because of Kyle Dubas, but because of Brendan Shanahan.
I'm not sure that Dubas had it out for Mitch Marner. I
don't think he had it out for him. I think he was willing to move off of Nylander before his NMC kicked in. I think he was willing to move off of Marner before his NMC kicked in. I think every single time he tried to do something to shake up the roster during his duration there, he was completely shut down, and he was told, you play around the periphery of the roster. That is where you have freedom. Anything else, anything else, you have to run up the ladder.
Well, that core 4 was, the core 4.
I get that, but I almost can guarantee you that he was fighting tooth and nail to say we got to break these guys up, and was shut down at every turn. So anyway, yeah. Do you have any? We went longer than I was thinking we would. So it's funny because we said it'd probably be a short one, and then.
But we got some great questions.
Great questions. I love the questions. But I will say Puck Off Hockey is no more. We're rebranding.
Okay.
We're rebranding. Okay. Some announcements are coming on August 1st. And so our next show will be on August 6th. Am I getting the date right on that? Is that the Wednesday?
Hold on.
I think you have a calendar more readily available than I do.
I do.
I think that's the Wednesday, because we are going to do Wednesdays, you and I, going forward.
Yes.
But there will be a complete rebrand of the network.
Okay.
We'll be bringing back a new show with a new co-host. You and I will still be doing our thing on Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to keep an eye out for what's coming. We've taken some time off from our show, and a lot of things have been reconsidered and rethought about.
Yep.
And August 1st will be the big day that it all gets revealed, and we'll be doing some shows that week.
Okay.
So
I look forward to hearing all your announcements.
A lot of hockey content is coming. And where was it? Oh, Pyro GOB's comment here. The going in depth part. Oh, it's only beginning.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts here? Whether it's
I just want to
24,
say
25?
that I was a guest on Bruins Tape to Tape with Maria and Caroline last week, and it came out today. It was their 100th episode. It was their 100th episode. I was a guest. They released it today, and my site is up and running, as well as my Substack. So if you don't want to subscribe to Substack, you can just head on over to my WordPress.
Yes, because your Substack is so expensive.
Well, I know, because it's free. But there's multiple ways, and you can always catch me on Twitter too. Like I said, I will talk puck with anyone. I won't deal with trolls, though. Like, if you want to debate something with me, I will 100%, because not everyone has the same opinions. You and I don't always have the same opinions.
There's a reason our show goes for almost 2 hours now.
Right, because we talk. But seriously, you guys, these shows are better when you guys send us the questions. So keep coming, keep sending us questions and read my stuff, damn it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is coming down the road.
And just a little snippet, in case, if you follow all things Boston hockey, the Fleet announced their new head coach today. And the story is up on my site, and I will be watching the press conference later because I was at work today, so I didn't have the opportunity, and having another story come out probably tomorrow about that. So, so mainly my site is focusing mainly on the Bruins and the Fleet for now. Once training camp starts, I'll hit more on the prospects, and then Providence when it comes out. You and I will collaborate and, cross post all the stuff that we do to get the stuff out there more. And then also Hockey East, once Hockey East starts. So men's and women's too.
It's gonna be an awesome fall. Like I said, the content is just starting.
Yep.
And like I said, hopefully Dom is able to come back at some point sooner rather than later. But he's got some stuff going on. So,
and as much as you are knowledgeable on prospects and I can hold my own, Dom is top notch when it comes to prospects.
Dom is the Dom for a reason.
Yep.
So not just Dom, he is the Dom.
Yeah.
So definitely check out Dom.Hockey. We're definitely in touch, him and I, and I've learned so much from. I will be calling him Yoda. But like I said, there's a lot to come.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody for jumping on, and we'll see everybody on August 6th. So until then, go Bees.
Good night, guys.